On this next episode of Safehouse, we're going to be digging further into financial intimacy. How is our money getting together?
Yes. Is our money close?
Is our money close? Is it tight? So if you want to learn how to get tighter with your finances, and if you want to learn cheat codes, if you're in the market looking for your forever person, this is the episode for you. Stay tuned, and we'll be right back.
What's up,
What's
Safe
up,
House?
Safehouse family?
What's up? What's going on?
It's a hot summer
It is a
this
hot
summer in the
summer.
Midwest.
God,
I think
it's
all
hot.
over the country.
Yeah.
Even as I've traveled, it seems like the 90-degree weather has followed me from Midwest to East Coast to wherever I've landed.
Mm-hmm.
It's just been hot.
Yeah, it has definitely been hot. I also want to say, too, now we're talking about weather. You know, we're praying for all those families
Yes.
in Texas because of those floods. You know, children lost their lives, parents lost their lives. So they're just deeply affected. So like I said, we're definitely praying for the state of Texas and for all of those families that have been impacted and forever changed
Yeah.
because of the floods.
We'll definitely be praying for them. Family, just keep those families in your hearts and
Yeah.
prayers. It's just, that's a lot of loss. I think it's over 100 people.
Oh, yeah, right now,
that
yeah.
were
And they
lost
still
in
haven't
that.
found everybody. So,
That's the call you never want to get as a parent. So
Yeah.
continue to lift them up. So what do we have on deck for this episode when we're talking about financial intimacy?
so we still talking about, you know, if our money is close, you know, do our money kiss? You know, do our money, you know, hold hands? You know, is our money far apart? And I think too, you know, kind of like when we talked about emotional intimacy and physical intimacy, all of that does kind of play a role in financial intimacy. So
Yeah.
that's why I was just kind of saying, like, if our money is kissing or whatever. And if it's not, then why not?
Yeah.
You know, why isn't our money together? I mean, and I don't mean that it has to be in the same bank account, but whatever. I'm just saying that whatever we're doing with our money, we should be doing it together. We should have planned goals and we should have kind of like the same values about our money. And if we don't, then that really kind of puts a damper on our financial intimacy.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
you know, so one of the goals is we would like you all to have things in the same bank account. We'd like for everybody to have multiple bank accounts
Yes.
where they can manage their funds and cash flow and savings and retirement and investments. Realize not everybody's there today. Some folks have been fortunate to have liquidity moments to give them the flexibility to do some of those things. Others have not. And so we recognize folks where they are. And, you know, we want to help you get there. And for those of you on the path, once again, the cheat codes for the singles, these are the conversations that will help create what I'll call those tension moments while you're dating.
Mm-hmm.
And I think sometimes when we're dating, we don't create enough tension moments.
That is true.
And because the tension moments allow you to discover things about this forever person. And I think this money tension moment will bring to the surface a lot of the things we're going to be discussing. So listen closely, even though you may not be in the midst of dealing with these things right now. These are great conversation pieces while you're out in the dating world.
And I think the thing that we're going to talk about today, which these two words to me always cause tension, is emotional transparency.
Mm-hmm.
You know, because anytime anything is emotional, I mean, obviously that can create any levels of tension. And transparency, because that means in this moment that I really have to be honest about everything. You know, that's what for real transparency is. That means that everything is on the table.
Yeah.
And that's hard, you know, when you start talking about money. And even as we're still becoming one, you know, that's one of those areas that creates tension when we start talking about our money, because people feel a certain kind of way about their money. You know, even when it's our money, we still feel a certain kind of way about it. You know, so that's what we're going to talk about today. We're going to talk about being emotionally transparent about our money. And I'm like, you're probably like, okay, well, what does that mean? How do I become emotionally transparent about our money? So there are two things that we're actually going to talk about today.
Yep.
It's about sharing your financial story or your money story, because everybody has a money story. How did I grow up with money? Did I have money? Did I not have money? How did I see, my family deal with money? So that becomes your money story. And also we're going to talk about acknowledging our mindset about money. Like, I do have a particular mindset about money. Do I love money? Do I care about whether or not we have money?
Yeah.
It's those types of things we're gonna talk about. And so, like I said, we're definitely gonna give some cheat codes for the singles. But the reason why this part of the conversation is so vital is because if we don't talk about where we started, and what we're thinking about it, then we kind of just stay in the same place.
Yes.
So to me, this is a good foundational place to begin to be able to start those conversations.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, because, you think about it, like all the things you just described, my money story, my mentality about money. And even though, as we're a Christian channel, right? Part of our mantra, the thing we say is that we believe in God more than we believe in money.
Absolutely.
But I think when you start to look at people's behaviors, there's a little bit of conflict there.
Oh, yeah.
Because, we believe in God till we ain't got no money. And then,
oh yeah, yes, that is true. God, where are you?
Right.
I ain't got no.
Right.
We feel like Jireh, you are enough. Yeah, we like you ain't enough right now.
We're not singing the "You Are Enough" song,
right?
And
that's true.
It's really weird because we would never say that we worship money or we keep money as an idol, but you will find out who your idol is when you don't have it.
Oh yeah, real quick.
And what you really believe in when you don't have it.
That's
right?
true.
Or you
that
don't have
true.
access to it, or you don't see any coming in, right?
Yeah.
It's something to not have any, but then knowing that you have obligations coming and nothing coming in, that creates another level of tension.
Oh yeah. It's stressful. Let's just be honest, you just see a whole different side of your spouse.
You see a whole different side of everybody.
You
right?
do.
And so, thinking about this concept of financial intimacy, I like how you said, okay, is our money getting together, is our money kissing? But the bigger concept is, are we close about our money?
Yeah, that's true.
Let's think about that. So when we're in physical intimate times, we can be close. I mean, we bear everything, we lay it all out. We're, doing things to each other. I'm trying not to get X-rated, and I know that's where you want to go. Right. Look, everybody look at it. Y'all saw her eyes and her smile and all that kind of stuff. Her face took you right there. So anyway. So, but when we're in that, sort of physical intimacy place, we can get very, very, transparent with people about that.
Oh, yeah,
right?
absolutely. Yes.
Even in other places, certain emotions we can start to show, but for some reason, when it gets to money, we're never that close. We're never that close with each other, right?
Right.
And there are reasons for that. In some cases, and we're going to talk about that as we go along, but there are reasons for that. But the goal here and the real exercise we want everybody to go to is start to first ask yourself that question: why can't we be that close? If we can get together and create life and have a child, what is it about this money that says we have to do something different there?
That's really powerful that you said that. Like I said, when you said if we can get together and create a child, because a child is a part of our future.
Yeah.
And not just our future, but the future of the world.
Yeah.
And so I think, like you said, it's like, so I think if we start thinking about our money like that, it's like we can't, instead of just living day to day, what are we thinking about our future? Because like you said, man, when we got married, I was 27?
Yeah.
And you were It doesn't matter how old he was. Let me just stop right there because I'm older than he is. And you guys don't need to know how much older I am than he is.
I am in a fraternity with a lot of great men that married women that are a little bit older.
I don't even know why I said that.
The Prime Minister of France, right? Isn't his wife like 20-some years older than him? He's like in his 50s and she's like 70-something.
I don't know. But I'm just saying that I'm older than he is. But my point in bringing that up was that we're obviously now much older because we've been married for over 30 years.
Yeah.
And so we probably didn't do a very good job of when we first got married
in the beginning
to start thinking about where we were going to be right now,
age.
30 years later.
Yeah. And in fact, when we were that age, this age seemed so far away.
Oh God. Yeah. We weren't even thinking about that.
It was just so far away. It didn't even enter into our mind about life at this age.
And that's a good cheat code.
Yeah.
For younger people who are dating, because I feel like for people who are dating when they're older, and they're still looking to get married.
Yeah.
They already know all of that. They have a very good perspective on their money. They've been saving and they've been doing all of this. So they're not going to be having the same conversations that the 20-year-olds are having. The 40-year-olds who are looking to get married, their conversations are completely different than the 20-year-olds.
What's funny is you listen to some of these, young ladies and young men or older, more mature people on the social medias, right? Part of their checklist,
that's true.
You got to have some resources tucked away, because at a very minimum, I don't want you drafting off my resources.
That is true.
If we're going to get together, you got to have something tucked away, right? And so people are much more cognizant of this as, that great getting up morning gets closer.
Yeah, right.
For us,
that's real talk. Yeah.
But the cheat code, once again, for you young people or people that are seeking to get married, just keep that. You're going to go from a young married couple to being an old married couple one day.
Yeah.
And starting to think about what life is going to be for you all when you may not be able to work as hard, when your back is not as strong, when you may not be able to put in as many hours, when you're not able to do a whole lot of physical things, right? You have to think about all of that from even a career's perspective, right? At 55, do I want to be doing manual stuff in order to make money, or do I want to think about a career that puts me in an office by the time I'm in my 50s and 60s?
That is true.
So all of those things come into play as you're starting to think about this thing together.
And they keep moving the retirement age.
Yeah, it's gonna be, you're gonna retire
like 80 by the time we get there.
But my shout out to my rich uncle. My rich uncle has a formula for when the perfect time to take your Social Security. He's calculated it out, and it's not the age you should think. We'll share that one day in another financial episode. So what else we got on the list here?
So let's just start with our money story. This is my story.
Hey, this is my song.
Yeah, everybody has a story. About their money. And so I think too that would make it easy to even start a conversation. Instead of us like, okay, well, this is what but if we look at it as if we're sharing our story about money, I think that just that part of it makes the conversation more palatable.
It does. And it gives you insight into your forever person. Right?
Yes,
absolutely. I remember us dating, and it's funny, we didn't have this language or this structure around it, right? But the one thing I learned early about your money story is that growing up, you grew up with, 5 brothers and sisters.
I did.
and the resources were giving out very, very sparingly, right?
Oh, yeah.
So at a very young age, you learned how to manage 10 cents and 25 cents.
I did.
And stretch it out, right?
Right. I got 20 cents a day. So that was $1
a week.
week. So I learned how to manage that if I wanted anything extra. Sometimes it meant not having lunch, but I just learned how to manage it.
Well, you learned it's interesting.
And I knew that was all I was going to get too.
But it looks kind of cruel, right? But it's funny though. You learned that sometimes you have to sacrifice today,
Right.
or I have to sort of forestall my today's satisfaction in order to have more resources for tomorrow,
Correct.
right?
Yeah.
And so you learned that at a very young age, and it came into our wedding, into our marriage, because once again, you've always been about saving something, right?
Yes.
You've
Yes.
always been about preserving something. Whatever you get something, you're going to tuck something to the side. Right? And that's just part of your makeup and part of your DNA. So your money story is always going to include that. And it's blessed me because that was my mom. She was just like you in that regard, but it was not me. I was more my daddy's child when it came to money. It's like it came in one hand and went out the other, right?
Yeah.
It was just,
Andre calls me a squirrel. He says that about my food, but I think I'm also like that with my money too.
You do.
You know, because once again, you know, squirrels, they know when it's time to.
they're going to eat a little and then they're going to dig a hole.
Then they're going to dig a hole and they're going to put it in there and they know exactly where to find it. Now, the older I get, I can't do that because I will forget.
You can tell some of them old squirrels too, because they dig them holes and they forget where they put their little nuts and stuff.
That's me.
And other animals come along and get them. It's like, I know I put a nut there. But
but I think that that's important because, like you said, that gives such insight to how we view money when you really start sharing your story about money, you know. And so I think, you know, so if somebody's asking, like, well, like you said, how do we do it? Start sharing your story.
Start sharing your story.
You know, because everybody has one.
Yeah, what's my quote unquote money story? So at a very young age, while you were pinching pennies, I was learning to be an entrepreneur, right? So
Yes.
my mom was the neighborhood big mama, right? So every neighborhood in the ghetto. So for those of y'all that don't know nothing about the ghetto, you don't know nothing about this, right? But anyone that's been in the ghetto, there's a big mama that sold candy and pop. And in the summertime, we had a snow cone stand,
Which he loved.
I can't eat snow cones to this day because of that snow
this
cone
story.
stand. It's like the snow cones, and it was like it used to be sun up to sundown. I'd watch all the kids playing. They out there in the fire hydrants. They playing hide and go seek,
Andre all
catch
sticky.
a girl, kiss a girl, and they doing all of this
Bees
stuff, right?
following him.
And I got bees flying, buzzing all around me. I got stung like every day, you know. And it was always a family, you know. My mom was like extending credit, so like they bring they whole clan down, and everybody was getting medium coconut and blue raspberry snow cones, and I'm pumping ice and dipping and scooping ice. And I did that all summer. Like, man, I believe I'm missing out on my childhood. But what I learned, and the habit that was kind of ingrained in me, is that I now, as a habit, kind of will forestall doing a lot of things for the sake of working in entrepreneurship, right?
Yeah.
So there's probably the good side of it. It's built us up some resources,
Right. Oh,
right?
yeah, absolutely.
But
absolutely.
it paid for Hannah to go to college. A lot of things happened, but also there was probably trips we didn't take and things we didn't do, and a lot of recreation that we
had to
didn't
cancel
get
a few trips
because
and
I
things like
always
that.
felt, you know, that the income from whatever means was more important than anything else. So that's part of my money story. So I've been always blessed to be able to make a dollar. I may not be able to hold on one.
Right.
Right.
But I think that's important, like you said, when you're getting together, because like you said, it's, you know, it's the money manager and the person who knows how to make money. Because I'm the money manager, like you said. So, like you said, so even though you like you said, you want to spend all the money, but you have a money manager who says, okay, well, you can't spend all of the money, you know, because some people, you know, man, when you start talking about, you know, okay, I'm gonna give you an allowance, some people get really.
Oh, it's a badge of honor for me. I tell everybody
be
I get
upset
my
about
couple
that
bucks.
word.
You know, all the guys freak out. It's like, oh, my wife gave me $50. I'm like, you get $50? I'm like, how do you get $50? You know,
I was just trying to help us, man.
she got that 20-cent a week anointing, that $1 a week anointing that she laying on me. So.
But you know what? It was funny because now that I'm thinking about it, you know, like you said about your mindset.
Yeah.
Because see, I never gave myself an allowance.
Yeah.
You know, so what I'm doling out your allowance
Right.
based on what I think. You know,
you think I need, right?
Right. You know, like based on need versus, okay, man, you know, I just want some extra money, you know, so in my mind, I never gave myself an allowance because I'm trying to manage your life, my life, make sure all the bills is paid, the kids and all that other kind of stuff. So I never gave myself an allowance. But that was my mindset around money. And so part of that is my money story because, like I said, me growing up, my mom, and so was I, I was a stay-at-home mom. Like I said, when after Hannah was born, I stayed at home.
Yeah.
And so my mom was a stay-at-home mom. And so my dad had all control of the money. So he went grocery shopping, he paid all the bills, he did all of those things. And so one of the things that my mom said was she was like, her advice to us was make sure you have your own money. And so I think she was saying that because she felt like she didn't have any control over the money. She didn't really have an allowance, even though she had credit cards that she can put whatever she wanted on her credit cards and my dad would pay them. But for her, she just wanted the money. You know what I mean?
Helen, if you're listening from heaven, I make all the money, but I have no control. So your advice, I don't know if it works.
Right. He does have control of the money. Let's not say it like that. Like I said, we have an agreement. We've come to agree, knowing. I think this kind of leads us to that second part: our money personalities. Because everybody has a personality around money, and so. Like I said, outside of your story, you do have a personality about it. And so you have the spender, which you. Yeah. You got the saver. You also have the person who's a giver, which is, Andre used to say all the time, I'm going to give away the whole house. Yeah. You have the planner. You have the risk taker. You have the controller of the money, and then you have the worrier. To me, that worrier thing, I don't worry about it as much, but once again, that really can because your personality is what begins to rule. In how you dole out or keep money, or how you even talk about money. Because the thing about being a worrier about money is it's like you won't always be honest.
That's true. Yeah.
Because the worrier tends to keep all of that stuff on the inside. Yeah. It just becomes anxiety. And so you never really tell your forever person, your fears regarding money.
And let's also be transparent. A lot of our self-esteem is attached to money.
Oh, yeah, absolutely,
right?
Yeah.
Whether we have it or not, we want to, and it's unfortunate because many of us will spend money in order to create the appearance that we have a lot of resources. But, when you go one or two levels below the surface, there's not really anything there. There's no savings, there's no retirement, there's no whatever, right? It's like basically the first little tragedy that comes along, this person is homeless.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I'm not saying that if, there may be people in that situation today. I am not trying to expose you or make you feel bad. All I'm trying to say is at some point you have to recognize that behavior and say, okay, is this one, what's best for our relationship? Two, as a believer, is this what God would have me to do with these resources?
Yeah.
Because, my perspective, and as I've matured into this, right, we have to get to a place where money is nothing but math. It's a resource, right?
Yeah. I mean,
I've
never thought about.
Yeah.
I've never thought about just money being math. I think that's such a powerful statement. Can you explain that a little bit more?
Yeah. So money being math, at the end of the day, and the biggest measure of money being math is go to any bank or any institution to try to get a loan or try to get financing for a car. It won't have anything to do with how you feel, what you like, what you've been through, your personality. It's all going to come down to your credit rating, your ability to pay, how much money you have in the bank, all these things, right? And so when it comes to this resource, if we make it more than just math and we start to attach emotion to it, the lack thereof is going to put us into an emotional space.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Right?
Yeah.
Having an abundance of it will give it more power than it actually has.
Yeah, I'm happy when we got a savings account.
And well, let's look at a confirmation of that, right? The lottery curse.
Oh, yeah.
Most of the people, there's very few that sort of survive, but most people that win the lottery, they end up in a worse financial situation than they were in before they won the lottery. So, well, how is that possible? Well, they've never seen that abundance of money. Money was more than math to them. So they, between trying to solve all of their problems and all the problems of everybody in their circle, assuming the money would never run out, and it does.
Yeah.
It runs out very quickly.
It does. Yeah.
And so that's what I mean. We have to, I'm not saying that money is not good. The Bible doesn't speak about anything ill about being rich, right?
It doesn't,
or being wealthy.
It's really your attitude.
It's your attitude about it.
Yeah.
And is it an idol? Is it a god?
Yeah.
Is it something that you trust more than the provider of money?
Yeah. That's really good. Yeah. So as we come to a close on this part of the conversation, I think, this would be the moment where we can do the reality check, where, like you said, we know, like you said, the idea of talking about my money as a story and really kind of identifying my money personality. This is when you get the reality check. Okay, where are we?
Yeah.
Like you said, having that conversation like, okay, how close is our money? Because some people's money is really close, because they were able to have, those levels of conversations, because when you get to the part of the reality check, so now that we know who we are and what our story is, you can kind of begin to see, okay, like I said, so if we have goals, it's like, okay, man, like I said, we're older, so now we have to really start thinking about, okay, like what is life going to look like in 10 to 15 years?
Yeah.
So now we both now have to maybe go back and look at our money personalities and say, okay, well, you know what? Now we both really got to start spending.
Yeah.
I mean, not spending,
Not
we got to be
saving.
saving, so that way by the, in 10, 15 years,
right.
They both begin with an S. We want to save, but like I said, because sometimes we think, well, that's just how I am but the older you get, you can't stay in the that's just how I am.
You can't stay in the
You got to be able to change how you see your money, and so to your point too, the Bible also says, and this is where we are, leaving an inheritance, for our children's children. So we're not just saving we're not just preparing for us to live 10 to 15 years later. We're trying to figure out, okay, what would that look like for us to be able to have an inheritance for our children and our children's children if our children decide to have children.
Right. Because we don't see any prospects.
We don't see any
out
prospects
there.
right now. But that's our mindset. And so, which means since that's our mindset, now our money story is shifting.
Yeah. And it's more future looking.
Yeah.
But once again, I think we've also gotten to a place where the money is math, right? Because
yes, absolutely.
We're looking at, okay, it's not just about me attaching it to what I want to do and my power to do whatever. It's okay, how much do we need to put aside in order to have this? What do we need to do to pay this off? Or what do we need to do to do this? And how do we manage the inflows so that it's the inflows are more than the outflows, so we have the necessary surplus to put things in a certain place, right? And how do we time certain things? And, and so it gets to more of an intellectual exercise than an emotional exercise. And the yeses and the nos. And here's the great part about it. When money becomes math, the yeses and the nos are no longer personal.
Yes. Right.
We can now make decisions based upon this resource.
That's real
versus
good. Yeah.
Me having control of this money defines my manhood or my womanhood, or it validates me or it doesn't validate me, or my ability to go out with the fellas and buy everybody's lunch or whatever have you. There may be some personal validation that comes from that. But, for your relationship, how is that helping or hurting the relationship? I don't have to have that kind of validation, especially if I know the math ain't mathing in our relationship.
Right. Yeah. So I was thinking, I have on my Star Wars T-shirt, we're both big Star Wars fans, and we understand that everybody, which is a sad reality, that everybody's not aware of Star Wars. But two of the characters in Star Wars, the main characters, was Luke and his dad. Darth Vader. And so there was always this clash. And so, they have the two lightsabers. And sometimes that's how we are in our financial intimacy. It becomes a war. But even in this whole franchise of Star Wars, you see that even Luke and his dad, they come together.
They eventually reconcile.
They eventually reconcile, and they're on the same side. And so it's a story of good and evil, but I just want to say that when they get on the same side of good, good things begin to happen.
Yeah.
And so that's what I'm saying for us with our financial intimacy, that when we can come to a place of agreement with our finances, then we begin to see different seeds grow, because things are going to grow when we get on the same page with our finances. And so, like I said, if going back to the reality check, if you just start with your story, because to me that kind of dips into the emotional intimacy piece. Like, man, is there a free space for us to be able to talk about it? Because it's what you always say when we're talking about trauma. How did I get here?
Yeah.
And so how did I get my ideas about money? Because sometimes we spend so much time fussing and fighting about money that we never think to ask our forever person, like, okay, how did you get here?
How did you? Yeah. Remember, common sense is not common practice.
Yeah.
What you may believe is natural common knowledge may not even be in someone's mind frame.
Right.
How they think. So it's really important that for those that are on the path, the cheat code is in the discovery process. How do we start to learn this? And for those of you that are already together and we're already together, we're making this thing happen. How do we reboot this process?
Yeah.
So that we can start the discovery and change our trajectory of how we think about money or how we manage our money together.
Yeah. That's why it becomes a story. We can, in this moment, like you said, if for those of us who are already there, we get to rewrite our story. The book's not done. We can add some new chapters to it. And
it's not too late. I know some of you may feel like, man, I'm gray. I got these, I didn't do so right, and we're here where we are now. That doesn't mean it is too late.
Yeah, it's never too late.
And there are tools and things you can do to help accelerate getting to a different place. And the thing that I'm always mindful of is, as people of faith, we never know that moment where God is going to do something that changes our trajectory.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
And the worst place to be is not prepared to do that. So just imagine this, right? Someone is willing to come along and give you a business for very little. It's a profitable business, making a lot of money, but they're willing to give it to you for a very small price. Wouldn't it be a shame that you'd have to walk away from $1 million+ opportunity because you didn't have $4,000 or $5,000 in the bank, right? And I can only say that because we lived that, right?
Yeah, we did. Yeah, no, absolutely.
We lived that, and because you were able, you learned.
Oh,
at
yeah,
a very young age.
Yeah, I remember that conversation.
On how to take 20 cents and stretch it out. When that opportunity did come along, we were able to walk through the door.
Yeah. You were like, well, we need some more money.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, okay, yeah, that's not a problem.
Right.
Yeah. And like you said, I know that that's not everybody's thing, but like you said, it's how, it's like you said, it's just how we did it,
Well, so let's think about this question some more, you all. Give us some feedback in the comments below. Reach out to us at safeinthehouse@gmail.com. Remember, if this conversation struck you, to like and share this video as a people, as people of God, as just a nation. This issue is causing relationships to break up every day. And so the greatest opportunity is we start to spread the news about people getting their money together, relationships, getting their money to better. Just imagine how much more powerful as a people we would be. Our ability as groups of people to have buying power, as groups to be able to do things, right? This is how powerful this thing is. So as we're going through it, I'm going to leave you a couple of things to think about. A couple of things to think about before the next episode. One, what is that money mindset? Like she mentioned, what's my money story first, right? How did I get here? And then what's my mindset about money today?
Yeah.
And then, I would also ask, are there some behaviors that may be hindering my ability to get our money together? One such behavior I'll bring up is when there's extra, are you keeping it secret? If I get a little bit of extra, money, is it going into the pot?
Right.
One thing I admire about a couple that we're going to interview for you all.
Yes, I'm so excited.
We're going to interview this couple, and they're going to be on. Is the husband says we are team, and I'm not going to reveal them, right? But their last name, their team last name. So for us, it'll be Team Allen.
Yes,
we're Team Allen, and everything that comes into the house goes into the kitty.
Right.
And it's one resource for the whole house. And this couple has been able to weather ups and downs of dramatic fashion.
Yes.
And not only are they together, their kids are aligned. They are definitely a team.
Yeah.
Their family is a team sport.
Absolutely.
And
Absolutely.
that's what's really admirable about them. So
we're excited about interviewing them, and I know you're going to be just as excited about hearing their story, because once again, that's how we're starting out with their story, and like you said, all the ups and downs, and because once again, just like any level of intimacy isn't easy. To me, it's the maintenance of intimacy, because we can jump right into intimacy, but it's the maintenance of intimacy which is vital. Like I say, even in our financial intimacy, the maintenance of it.
So that's all we got for this episode. Safehouse. Remember, like, share, subscribe.
Ring the bell.
Ring the bell for notifications.
Okay, sorry.
Give us some comments below.
Please
the
do.
Algorithm loves when people comment on our videos, because the algorithm says the YouTube geniuses decide that, hey, people like this stuff. We're going to send it to more people. And there's nothing more that we love than to have a bigger audience to get this message to.
Yes.
So please help us out. Like and share. It would help us greatly. And until next time. We just want to say we love you.
We love you guys. Oh, I'm like early. Sorry.
You're early, right?
All right. Oh, sorry. Let's go back. Okay.
Premature piece there. All right.
Yes. Okay.
And here we
Let's
go.
go back.
And 1, 2, 3. Peace. Take care. We love you.
We love you guys.